Hello everyone! Last night I was able to play some of the Battlefield 1 open beta, so today I just wanted to kind of go over my first impressions of the game and tell you what I think. So when you first open up the game, you're kind of greeted with this very interesting interface. What caught my attention was the little bar on the left side of the screen. You can easily see that it also lists Battlefield 4 as a selection option. Now I'm not 100% sure, but I think what we're seeing here could possibly be the new launcher for the Battlefield games. Or maybe all of EA's games, including things like Garden Warfare and maybe even Titanfall as well. So in the beta there are two game modes available. There's Conquest and Rush. Conquest being the full 64-player game experience, and Rush being a smaller 24-player experience. They have a matchmaking service available for both the game modes. However, if you do feel like flexing your rights as a PC user, you can still continue to use the server browser to handpick your own games, just as you could in the previous Battlefield games. So far, the store doesn't offer any kind of microtransactions or anything like that. It's simply a link to pre-order Battlefield 1. However, I am sure they will add some kind of packages to expedite your earning of perks and weapons and things like that once the game is eventually released. The options are pretty robust. By default, the kill log is set to hide. I quickly enabled this so I could actually see who is killing who and what went down. I tried playing the game on the Ultra details with the resolution scale set to 100%. However, this made the game run very choppy with noticeable frame dips. I believe by setting the resolution scale to 100%, it's actually super sampling your resolution, giving you kind of a downsampled 4K resolution for even higher quality. By putting this to 50%, I was able to get much better performance and no noticeable degradation in the resolution. I initially thought that 50% was actually going to be blowing up like a 720p resolution, but I think 50% is actually the baseline that it defaults to for a 1080p resolution. If you go any higher from that, you are actually super sampling your resolution, which isn't always necessary. By keeping this at 50%, I was able to put the graphics quality all the way up to Ultra and keep a pretty consistent frame rate. This is using the GTX 970. So the first mode that I checked out was Conquest. It's your typical classic Battlefield game mode where you just capture and hold specific points. As soon as you load into the game, you're faced with a squad selection where you can join a squad right off the bat. I typically pick the squads that have at least 3 or 4 players. This is useful because you can actually spawn on your squad mates. If you don't join a squad, then you're basically just a lone wolf. So I'd recommend just selecting any one of these. The spawn screen looks pretty simplistic, maybe even too simplistic in comparison to something like Battlefield 4. You can spawn on your squad, you can spawn at objectives that you've already captured, or you can even spawn directly inside vehicles or on horses or planes. And if you choose to spawn inside a plane or a vehicle, you actually get to select which vehicle it is, and it kind of just materializes out of thin air. So if you wanted to fly in a plane and there was a plane slot available, you could click on that and then select whether you want a bomber, a fighter, or an attack plane, and off you go into the battlefield. I played mostly with the Assault class and the Scout class. I think both of these classes have a funny little bayonet charge they can do when you press F. It sends you barreling down the battlefield at breakneck speeds. It's actually quite funny, and I found it was a lot faster than running places. You can just point where you want to go and press F. I think there's a slow kind of recharge time on that move, or maybe you only have a limited amount of times you can actually do the bayonet charge. I'm not actually sure. The vehicles are pretty fun to drive, and they even have these very annoying kind of old school horns you can blow. That sound pretty cool. I was able to go on a few killing sprees with the light kind of tanks. You can still hop between the driver's seat and the gunner positions pretty seamlessly. However, your guy does do an actual animation of him jumping over the seat to actually man the gun, which is really cool. So sometimes it can be risky to, say, jump from the driver's seat all the way to the gunner position while you're under enemy fire. When playing as the scout and you're using a sniper rifle, you can still steady your scope by holding down shift, similar to the way you could do that in Battlefield 3 or 4, which is a welcome addition in my opinion. The sniper rifle handles pretty great actually for such an old World War I weapon. I've hardly noticed any bullet drop whatsoever when aiming down sights. You can even adjust the 0 point of your scope, and I believe that aids your aim when shooting from really long distances. I'm not entirely sure, but I believe it adjusts the height of your scope so you can accommodate for greater distances with the amount of gravity on the bullets. The horse is actually pretty cool. When you get on a horse, I think you're automatically given like a double barrel shotgun or something similar to that. You also have a sword you can equip. However, I found that it's pretty hard to actually hit somebody with it. I was standing right over somebody who was laying prone on the ground, and I swung at him multiple times, but I just couldn't seem to reach him with my saber from on top of the horse. The shotgun is pretty powerful though, and kills with 1 or 2 hits, but the reload time is kind of weird. You seem to only get a handful of shots before the guy kind of lays the gun across his lap and kind of gives up. I assume he's reloading it or something, but I found that a lot of times you'll click to fire, and your horse-mounted guy won't do anything. He'll just sit there. The horse movement is really good. He can double back and do a 180 on a dime. And it's kind of cool because your horse-riding soldier will call out commands to the horse as you're pressing the keys on the keyboard. He'll be like, jump over that, or come around again, or something. I don't know. He says a lot of stuff to the horse, and it's kind of cool. And I think the horse is the only vehicle that actually makes use of the shift key, where you can actually sprint on the horse, which feels really good. Sniper scopes still give off that glint, that kind of lens flare that you see off in the distance. So it's easy to identify where the sniper fire is coming from. Some people view this as a negative, but I think it's actually pretty good to prevent every player from using just a sniper rifle camping in a bush somewhere. So the planes are really fun to fly. The movement is really good and fluid on them. As to be expected, the heavier bomber class plane does fly a lot slower and has a much wider turn radius than the more nimble fighter and attack planes. You have the option of looking from a first-person point of view when using the bomber. However, this ends up putting you in a view where you're just looking at the back of another player who's co-piloting, and you can't see a damn thing, so I ended up mostly playing in third person with the bomber. But the first person does come in very good use when you're flying the other 2 planes. In the fighter plane, you actually get a first person view where you can aim down sights, similar to how you would on the ground as a foot soldier. And this gives you a really nice view of what you're shooting at. The planes are really fragile, but you do have the option of repairing them mid-air. There's no landing strips or anything where you fly down and park your plane to get repaired. You can make the repairs mid-flight by just kind of pointing your nose in one direction and pressing and holding down the X key. You're unable to maneuver or shoot or do anything while you're doing the repairs, but it's a nice way to continue the fight without just condemning your plane to death after taking a few hits. Most of the vehicles have more than one seat for players to occupy, which is really great. I love the cooperative nature of all the Battlefield games, and it seems even more necessary in this new Battlefield 1 game. Like, I wouldn't even want to fly a bomber without somebody occupying the tail gunner seat. If you get a plane flying up behind you, trying to take you down, your tail gunner can easily take them off your tail. The time to kill for each firefight seems really good. If you are taking enemy fire, you can easily perceive where the bullets are coming from. And even if you take a few hits, you still have plenty of time to drop to the ground, take cover, and kind of regain your composure. So at the end of each round, you're met with a scoreboard showing top ranking players like shots fired or handgun kills or score per minute. And it even shows your wacky kind of little player avatars that you can customize. Like, what the heck is this thing? Crazy, squinting, crying Lisa with puckered lips? I don't know. So then there is the Rush game mode. I believe this is very similar to the original Rush mode from Battlefield 3 or 4. You're basically in charge of either attacking or defending 2 different objective points. I believe the enemy team is trying to plant bombs on them to blow them up, and you have to defuse them. Once your 2 objective points have been destroyed, you have to retreat backwards deeper into your own territory to protect 2 additional points, and it kind of continues on and on from there. In this game mode, there's no flying vehicles, but you can still spawn in tanks if you'd like. As you're playing, you might level up or get a promotion, and every time you do that, you get something called war bonds. Apparently, you can use these war bonds to unlock new equipment in the customization screen, but I never got around to checking that out. So overall, I really enjoyed my time with Battlefield 1. I'm definitely going to continue playing it and learning more about all its features and details. It feels like a very good Battlefield game. It reminds me heavily of Battlefield 1942, and everything that I miss about playing that game. I know lately Call of Duty and other similar modern shooters have all been focusing on the future of military warfare, and it's kind of become a very oversaturated marketplace for shooters. So seeing a new take on a very old form of combat is kind of a breath of fresh air. I really look forward to playing the final game and seeing additional maps and maybe game modes. Just like all the other Battlefield games, I'm sure I'm gonna get many hours of gameplay out of this, and I truly can't wait to see more. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed listening to my first impressions of the Battlefield 1 beta. If you want, you can go ahead and try it out for yourself. I think EA will have you kind of jumping through a few hoops to get the beta key. Something involving Battlefield Insider and registering your email with that. But I don't know, for the 5 minutes it takes to do that, plus the occasional newsletter from EA, I think it's worth it to give this one a look. Anyway, thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you all later in the next episode.